This is an RNZ podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Morris, and welcome to, I can't believe this either, episode 1000 of At the Movies. And at a time when real life seems to be careering to hell in a handcart, it's something of a relief to be able to give our attention to something far less important to most of us. I'm talking about this year's Oscars, or indeed the Oscars in general, which is a matter of concern to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, whose baby it is.
Well, Raquel, this certainly is a special evening. Phew, I can barely catch my breath. Turn it over to Raquel. Raquel, I'm used to being out of breath, working out to my video.
What the hell is he doing?
Hold for laughter and applause to Phil. Gets me out of breath just watching you.
Despite the Academy's efforts, public interest in their annual shindig remains half-hearted at best. You can't blame the ceremony itself, hosted by Conan O'Brien this year, which went pretty much without a hitch. But the reason many of us watch the thing is in case there are some surprises, an upset, someone outright refusing an award, a drunken F-bomb, or a slap in the face.
You know, Honora's having a good night. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's great news. 2 wins already. I guess Americans are excited to see somebody finally stand up to a powerful Russian.
Well, that was about as controversial as things got this year, and the succession of wins by modestly budgeted fairy tale Honora, Best Film, Director, Editor, Script and Best Actress for Mikey Madison, was the closest thing to a big upset. But these days the Oscars are the last movie award show off the rank, so many of the winners and losers were already pretty much set in stone.
And Judy Becker, the real Laszlo Toth, who deserves to be up here as well. And I'm wrapping up, please, I'm wrapping up. I will wrap up. Please turn the music off. I've done this before. Thank you.
Actors Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez all continued their winning ways, even if they all outstayed their welcome on the podium. 2025 was hailed as another win for smaller independent films, if the nearly 4-hour Brutalist can be called smaller anything, though blockbuster hits got their usual consolation prizes.
I'm the first black man to receive a Costume Design Award for my work on Wicked.
Wicked picked up design and costumes, Dune 2, visual effects and sound. Early favourite Conclave had to be satisfied with adapted script, which was one more than the multi-nominated A Complete Unknown. But Bob Dylan at least got a mention, courtesy of the hit of the evening, Sir Mick Jagger.
Bob said, "You should find somebody younger." I said, "Okay, I'm younger than Bob, I'll do it."
So that's the Oscars for another year. Does it matter? Well, possibly not. As the man said, all you need to know about awards is that Mozart never got one. Well, this week, Sweden's bid for an international Oscar, though The Last Journey didn't make it to the shortlist, and a film with no prospect of any awards despite its classical connections, William Tell. But first, an Oscar nominee that didn't even get a theatrical release, Amazon's Nickel Boys.
Nana.
Nickel Boys was the dark horse of this year's Oscars, though it was enthusiastically praised by the few people who actually got to see it, critics and Academy members mostly. It never made the cinemas, only now has streaming service Amazon Prime finally released it, and nowhere has that word been more appropriate. It was just let out without a word.
Young man, do you know a student named Elwood Curtis?
Yes, I do.
Thank God.
Despite its impeccable literary credentials, Colston Whitehead's novel won a Pulitzer Prize in 2019. It's an uncompromising film with no Hollywood happy ending to act as a safety net. The The director, Ramel Ross, not only co-wrote the script, he was one of the cinematographers, which is one of the reasons Nickel Boys is like nothing I've seen before.
No, I'm okay. I'm hanging in there.
It's initially told entirely from the point of view of our hero, Elwood. In fact, we don't even know what Elwood looks like for over half an hour. It takes place in early 60s Florida, where Elwood is brought up by his Nana at the height of civil rights unrest. Times are changing, says Nana optimistically.
It's been a long wait for some good news.
Good news, good news, good news. Things is changing.
But in the American South, change comes slowly. Elwood's fatal error was getting a lift from the wrong man on his 6-mile walk to a new school. It was a stolen car. The innocent Elwood was convicted by association, and he was sent to the notorious Nickel Academy.
Who's about to fall? He's about to fall, El. Turner! This isn't the fight!
The Nickel Academy was based on a real institution where boys were sent to be rehabilitated but were treated worse than if they'd simply been tossed in jail. Initially, Elwood had no idea of this. He and his grandmother still believed it was all a mix-up to be sorted out once they found themselves a good lawyer.
See, the problem is, Elwood, we didn't know how it works.
Elwood makes one friend at Nickel, another inmate called Turner. Turner has no family, no prospects, and advises Elwood to lower his expectations. Nobody gets out of Nickel.
My mother's watch.
A deck of marked cards. My big toenail.
That's all you got?
Really got nothing left to lose.
At this so-called academy, all the cards are marked. The boys are put to work from dawn to dusk. Only the white kids get to occasionally play football. And Elwood's prospects start to look as elusive as Nana's attempt to find a good lawyer.
Nana, what is it?
I let you down.
I'm okay. Yeah.
Hell, I let you down.
No.
And all the time we're seeing this place, in fact, seeing this whole movie through the eyes of Elwood and Turner. Literally. Much of the time it's filmed by strapping cameras to actors Ethan Harris and Brandon Wilson. It's a simple but effective technique, brilliantly illustrating the fact that they're the only ones who really see each other at Nickel Academy.
How would you do it? Well, I wouldn't run into the swamp. Hide in there so the coast is clear and hitch a ride somewhere west or north. All right, that's how they get you.
The only shot in the film that allows itself to show both boys at once is when Elwood and Turner look at each other briefly in a mirror. But there's far more to Nickel Boys than documentary-style cinema verite. We're given some hope with regular flash-forwards to Elwood's later life away from Nickel.
What happened to that one kid I used to hang with all the time?
You don't remember?
Remember what?
The angle is slightly different now, not his eyeline but over his shoulders. He looks older, heavier, and yet someone from Nickel Academy recognises him in a New York bar and wonders what happened to his friend.
You really don't remember?
I don't know what more you want me to remember.
Nickel Boys is hardly, you'd think, new material, but that's not its purpose. Jails, prison farms, reform schools and racist guards have been movie staples since 1932's I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. But not like this. It's quite simply breathtaking, as much for how it's done as what it's about.
I came all this way. It's a crime that they won't let me see him. It's a crime.
What last year's Zone of Interest did for the Holocaust movie, if you remember it was two simultaneous films, What You Saw and What You Heard, Nickel Boys is equally revolutionary. It's a photographer's take on a spare literary novel, but what might have been an intellectual visual experiment is brought to life by the actors, led by a dazzlingly empathetic performance by Ingenue Ellis-Taylor as Nana.
What are they feeding y'all? You can't muster a bigger hug than that. I'm going to expect it next time, Tony.
Yes, ma'am. I'll see how we'll guess this.
This isn't to take anything from director Ramel Ross, and two shots by bit-part actors stay in my memory. A bitter old white man pokes at young Elwood's chest with his walking stick. Elwood's not allowed to complain. And on a bus to church, Elwood looks down to see a little 9-year-old girl playing on the floor and grinning up at him without a care in the world.
Look back on it. Think back on it. It's a long time ago.
Hello. Where'd you come from?
She'll learn, we realise, but not today. Let her have a few moments of enjoyment. And that's one of the reasons why Nickel Boys is possibly the best-made film I've seen this year.
It's now or never.
That's it, El. You're doing great.
We have to be like knights. Checkmate.
The line between fact and fiction has increasingly blurred recently. It used to be easy to spot the difference. Fiction was Batman and rom-coms like Love Actually. Non-fiction was earnest documentaries about sharks and Nazis. Now it's hard to tell. Was that really Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan in The Trip, or fictional characters with the same names?
Should be 2 rooms under the name Coogan.
We only have 1 double room.
What do you think's going to happen? You might touch my bottom.
Were you an altar boy?
In Sweden, the equivalents of Coogan and Brydon are Philip Hammar and Frederick Wilkinson, who became household names there, producing television comedy documentaries, often about Swedish showbiz. As you've probably guessed, I had to look all of that up.
Om man inte gör den där resan så tror jag inte han är med oss så länge till. Det är inte som det var förr.
Någon har bestämt dig för att gå i pension, Lasse.
And the reason I had to was a feature film called The Last Journey, ostensibly about Philip Hammar and his real-life father, Lars. Lars used to be a teacher and isn't handling retirement very well. He just sits around moping, says Philip's mum. What can be done to shake him out of his funk, wonders Philip.
Vi skulle ju ha det så mysigt nu när vi blev pensionärer. Och nu sitter han bara där.
Du är ju deprimerad. Nej, lite nere som vi säger på skånska.
När steppade du senast?
När jag sa adjö till min sista klass på gymnasiet.
Now, because I'm not Swedish and had no idea who any of these people were, I initially assumed we were in the world of pure fiction, particularly since Dimbulb Philip's bright idea is to attempt to revisit a childhood holiday with his dad, a holiday to Lars's beloved France.
Pappa älskar ju Frankrike. Vi åkte dit varje sommar. Och det var ju där han var som allra lyckligast.
Not only to go to the same places in the same car, a veteran Renault 5, but to try and duplicate many of the events that happened back in the 80s. And to help out, he enlists another passenger for this repeat holiday, none other than Philip's best friend, Frederick. 3 men in a Renault, in other words. Let's go.
Go!
Trots att det finns ett magiskt trollspö så kommer allt att bli som förr. Du kanske måste fatta att det inte kommer att bli så igen.
Well, not so fast. Lars is hardly in a fit state to let's go anywhere at the start. We're told he's about 80, but he's not wearing it particularly well. In the words of P.G. Woodhouse, he looks either like a chap of 110 who's rather young for his age, or a 99-year-old bowed down by trouble.
Jag tror att om du hjälper mig att ta ner honom till Frankrike och så ser vi till att han får uppleva allt det där han älskar, då kan han få livsgnistan tillbaka.
Vi åker idag. Så ska det gå.
But Philip refuses to be diverted from his plan. When it's suggested you can never really go back and retrieve the past, he refuses to accept it. Who says? So, next stop, the very hotel room where Dad told that amusing anecdote about Harry Belafonte, only to be interrupted by a passing train.
Hjärtat börjar slå. Allting är sig likt. Folk säger kanske att man ska inte återskapa det som har varit. Varför inte då?
Well, leaving aside the limited shelf life of Harry Belafonte jokes these days, it's an indication of Philip's growing monomania that he and Frederick set out to time the joke to fit another passing train. Synchronise your watches. As I say, is it fact or fiction? For all the seemingly fictional setups, old Lars doesn't seem to be acting as far as I can tell.
Men vad är alternativet? Att åka hem?
Ja, fan vad är inte mycket med.
Sluta nu då.
Real home movies from old family holidays seem to share space with bits that have been staged for the film. The Last Journey does go somewhere unexpected and touching by Journey's End, but I suspect long-time Philip and Frederick fans would get more out of it. Appropriately in a story about the grass being greener in another country and how hard it is to retrieve the snows of yesteryear. For the rest of us, you probably had to be there.
Nu Lars, vilket äventyr!
Ja, den sista resan.
A new movie about the legendary Swiss hero William Tell took me back to my own snows of yesteryear and a creaky TV series of the same name. I remember very little of it apart from a pretty actress called Jennifer Jane who played Mrs. Tell, the forgettable Conrad Phillips as William, and an immense actor called Willoughby Goddard who played the evil Gessler. But I certainly remember the theme song.
Come away with William Tell, come away to the land he loved so well. What a day when the apple fell for Tell and Switzerland. Come away with Tell to the mountain.
The William Tell Overture is one of the best-known pieces of music there is, with or without the Lone Ranger. It opened a rather less famous opera by Rossini, which in turn was based on a play by the distinguished German writer Friedrich Schiller, which I believe is the basis of this movie.
You think we're safe here? God has long forgotten us.
This is about our freedom, our families.
The director, incidentally, is Nick Ham, a man with a considerable theatre reputation, not least as resident director at the Royal Shakespeare Company. Among the cast of his William Tell are Jonathan Pryce, Sir Ben Kingsley, Rafe Spall and Danish star Claes Bang as William himself.
And now it begins.
Who are you?
William Tell.
So how, we wonder, can all this firepower have led to such a damp squib? Well, one point of similarity with the early TV version of The Tale of Tell is a certain lack of commitment among the actors. I remember the TV cast seemed resigned to the fact that it was no great competition to Robin Hood, on which it was clearly modelled.
Load thy bow, and make thee ready to shoot an apple from your son's head.
And for all William Tell's presumed popularity in Central Europe, here in the Anglophone world we know he shot an apple off someone's head, but that's about it. Unlike Robin Hood and King Arthur, who boasted respectively merry men and knights of the Round Table, we have nothing to attach to Tell apart from an apple.
To threaten me is one thing, to scare my child is another.
He said kneel. You hear that, Swiss? You kneel.
Which doesn't mean we can't find out. I mean, if the story's strong enough, not knowing what happens next is a good thing, surely. Well, that's a big if, unfortunately. The story certainly takes its sweet time getting going.
Sir, please, just let me take my son. He's but a boy.
This man is an enemy to the king.
The evil Austrians have conquered the noble Swiss, which means rapacious Tyrolean tax collectors regularly strip Swiss villagers of everything they can find. And tax collecting, as we all know, inevitably leads to raping, murdering, and villagers called Baumgarten taking revenge.
Why do you take this man?
He has challenged the king's sovereign power.
And for this to prison? Come, my friend, have God's mercy and let him go.
Hence with you. Take him away to prison!
Why, if you dare to take this man away from us?
Among the local aristocracy, some take the Swiss side, while others toady to the Austrian king, Sir Ben Kingsley, with a very distracting eye patch, possibly for disguise purposes. It's no good, Ben, we see you. He's got a noble niece called Bertha, possibly the first action heroine of that name in all cinema.
Your heavy hand has created a hero.
He is one man!
Your ignorant abuses have increased resistance.
Meanwhile, the king's sheriff, I don't think he actually is a sheriff, but you know what I mean, is a rather trimmer Gessler than I remember. He advances the plot, finally, by putting a hat on a pole and then demanding everyone bow to it.
I'll leave them naked and trembling before me.
Fight for us. We will do it as one.
Now, I imagine many of you are saying, this is all very interesting, I'm sure, but where's William Tell? I thought it was his show. Well, belatedly in he comes, crossbow in hand, sneering at the hat and refusing to bow, for which the only punishment the law allows, apparently, is to shoot an apple from his son's head.
I hear you are a master with that bow.
I'm nothing but a humble huntsman.
William Tell might have worked better in the original German, of course, or later sung in Italian. All I can say is that in English that wobbles between standard and ye olde with lots of these and thous, it's less convincing.
We will take back our homes, our town, and our country.
We will summon up our skills in battle.
And we will teach our enemy how we war!
I do like Danish star Claes Bang, usually, in part because of his name, like Rip Torn and Tuppence Middleton. But here he tries to blast his way through the substandard material, where he should have taken a tip from TV star Conrad Phillips.
Your heads will be on plate! You're finished!
Just keep your head down, Conrad would have told him. Cash the cheque, and 2 weeks later everyone will have forgotten you were in it. Always good advice. I just hope Claes wasn't paid in apples. And that brings this, the millennial episode of the show, to a close. I'm Simon Morris, and I hope you'll join me for the 1001st at the movies, same time next week.